Welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D collective. And all of you who are new, we get to continue chit chatting about being ourselves with love and having the capacity to deal with any of those circumstances from a place of mindfully living and loving, restorative embodiment, self aware, accountable, regulating person. So when you're a self empowered, enlightening person and or mystic, you have a gut that knows how to be in a heart like this, okay? And that's because you have put all the ego, biases, all of those things that are part of your journey, societally, psychologically, existentially, genderly, all of it, you don't identify with it. You have it here. And so you're able to think and feel easily and not to be in a low self-esteem ego that gets reactive or that wants to get reactive. So when people are controlling, self-control is not the same as self-mastery. And the difference will be noticed by those of us who have the self-empowered, enlightened ego. Because it's not dissolved, it's just an ego that doesn't get pissy in its pants. Also, I'm a mystic, but we're all somatic empaths, so either or. The only difference is I have an oversoul with past lives, future lives, things like that. So I'm a whole feminine and masculine of my own, but I'm a feminine of my oversoul. Okay, and that's the part of where I'm not sure how I'm going to actually title this per se, but I wanted to continue as our ascension energies have brought a new step forward for all of men, women, and theys who are in their wholeness. Masculine and feminine are embodying more of their true masculine and feminine. There doesn't have to be a twin flame collective, 144,000 special people for our earth to stay and succeed in its 5D frequency. In fact, space weather and the infinite universe, they know where it ends and begins, I think, right? So we are dark matter, dark energy. Doesn't disprove God, but it gives us something else to look at. And if you really must look at planets and a solar system and the stars, you're going to know that everything affects us and we're on the planet. It's also why a feminine can tell you, I eat ego for breakfast, because it makes me think of when didn't they think that, what was it, that the sun revolved around the earth, right? Until they found out that that's not what happens. Or was it, no wait, it was the earth revolve, I forget, but whatever it is, that you're always at the center of it. See, I get stupid, I forget things like that, but you know what I'm talking about. So that's what you'll notice whenever somebody has ego in town. And mystics, the 4D ones, have it all over the place. So they need a reason, or they find meaning in reason, and then they have their synchronicities and the way that they're able to allow their truth to be followed, which is why that fact that subjective is what reality is, it makes sense to a person who has the capacity to be a flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable brain. But also, like a smart man says, if you're not able to conceptualize that your beliefs are completely falsified, that everything you cherish the most, that it's not true, then you're not basing what you are thinking on reality. Because you are choosing that your subjective reality is the only truth. It's an irrefutable fact. Versus being a person who has common sense or has the capacity, again, to understand so many subject matters, so much this, so much that. And so when I hear scientists are going to use AI to disprove reality, I mean, that's what their butter and tea is, or butter and cup. That's what they're interested in. Okay, so for us, we're talking about becoming your whole self. And thanks to attachment trauma and more, I know the foundation of it. And then the mindset was already built, the inner growth mindset. So we continue. And how now I know to explain why mindset and mindfulness practices and mindset help you integration of the brain, restorative embodiment, your inner and outer well-being, and how to be a life partner, because you don't have any inch of you that would do a 360 on someone. Okay, so now I have a lot more new information on explaining how much amazing it is to have the tapping into of your infinite higher human conscious potential experience, and how I know all about it. And it's not wine, Sadhguru. He calls his body wine. It's not for me. Wine I can do a little bit, but too much makes me, ugh. It's love, and it's bliss, and it's pure cherry blossoms and rivers and music. Music in the air. It's suavemente. It's everything that will bring your body to be all nice and relaxed and easygoing, even though I still forget to breathe sometimes. I have this habit of not breathing. Okay, so being yourself with love is what makes you an ideal partner because you love yourself first, which means you love another. Being yourself with love also means you tell people the truth in their face, not behind their back. Being yourself with love means you don't switch it when you're in a group. And so, men, women, theys that care right now about that, which is bringing forth a conversation about how women, yeah, we still physically don't feel safe. We still physically don't have men who are actively men. They're scary monsters, and that's it. And that's nothing else to say. There's scary women who are also scary monsters, meaning their dysregulated nervous system and their ideas of what roles they have are scary because, wow, you're actively allowing something called a dominating matrix or whatever it is, re-traumatizing each other, so there's a lot of ways I can bring it. So anybody who is of the 5D collective is not going to support any of that, which is something that involves consistently and continuing to use fear, shame, vindictiveness, revenge, all the lower frequencies. So it's not by telling them they cannot continue with their dysregulation. No, it's by us not doing what they're doing, which is why a life partner for those who are in the 5D collective are people who have healthy self-worth. And then if I need to use examples, it's going to be people who match exactly how you live life. And so the depth of thoughts, the depth of feelings, but also the depth of your day-to-day, which means also the things you cherish. They don't have to like the same things, but they are going to be that which supports you. And so if I'm in a room, I'm a person who supports in general. As a feminine, I'm a nurturer. And I know when I have any physical threat versus when it's just somebody. No, my men friends are fine. My women friends are fine. Even if they're Cuscos, I don't want anybody getting in any of my friends' faces with their characterological distinctions and judgments, with their casting a stone. So I'm going to just use that example. So in my book, no life partner of mine is going to get rude with any of my biologically, well, no, they're actually because they're in structural dissociation. They are not going to get in the face of the men that I know are not in a therapist room, but that they don't represent any physical threat and that are not offending me because I don't get offended, and who I don't want to have to see any kind of behavior that doesn't bring a contemplative moment for the person who isn't even going to care about it, because there's plenty of men that I've seen in my lifetime for me that have not stood up for who I am and how I am and exactly what I stand for. In fact, in one of my relationships, I even got told to not bring things into the room. And I made sure that I made myself heard. And I said, I know you respect me, but you don't actually believe in bringing it to the table, because what you said is completely, that's not how things should work. There's no physical danger for us to bring up a conversation. And so what I'm saying is to be able and handle what can become an awkward situation, like when I got to be, and I'm not decent enough to be saluted. Handling an awkward situation with decency and respect of a person, independently from their lack of respect, is something that I value personally, because there's no need to get in anybody's face unless they're becoming a nuisance. Now, if they're nuisance and touching people, that's a different story, which when men are around and there are men who do that, they immediately intervene. The good men will make their way to getting those men out in the absence of creating a fight. And so this is the part of what non-reactive means. And non-reactive can only come if you know how to handle your prefrontal, not if you're using control, because you're controlling means to me that you can be on the brink of being triggered because you don't know how to use your prefrontal, because you're still using a 3-year-old that has a shame button in there somewhere that needs to prove itself. Oh, all they have to do is say one nasty thing in a wrong way and you're triggered, and now we got an unnecessary situation because you don't know how to have true empowerment. True empowered people don't get ego busted. They don't get reactive. That takes your volition, though, because it means something to you, because you do understand that showing and being an example is you standing in a non-reactive, empowered way, which, by the way, leads me to the ventral vagal nervous system. And a person who's being reactive, they're still a mammal. The fact that you're going to be in your ventral vagal will dissolve and dissipate and allow that nervous system to know there's no physical threat, which will support the unraveling and calming down of the situation, versus if they have a nervous system that's matching their fight flight, because now they do know that behind the scenes they got a person who is just waiting for the right push, and or anyways they're not in a safe space. So that's the part of where we speak to each other through nervous system first of all, and a smart man, woman, and they who cares about the environment around will not want to bring in any unnecessary physical anything, which means you want men and women, those who know how to be in their restorative embodiment. And that means your social engagement system is online while you're watching some fool be a fool, but you understand it's a fool because you're, again, just as clear as day with a good gut, because your ego is not ruling you with insecurity. And that is something that, for example, I will be able to know because my gut, I trust it like the back of my hand. And so if any person that I'm with gets unnecessarily into someone's face, I will say, look, no face, please. Learn how to handle yourself. I will know how to ask you when I need you. I mean, it would be a conversation because obviously this is that part. Everybody's different. But what I was trying to point out is life partners support each other. They don't hide each other, and they don't actually go against each other either. And they also don't feel awkward about each other and who they are. If you feel awkward about me, it's okay. You don't have to be with me. So for me as a mystic, I totally can understand also solo poly. Not that I would have to make it into statement, but that is who I am. That is what I am. That and so much more. And so if there's anything you don't like about me, that's okay. You don't have to. It'll be something I know how to say, okay, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure. That's how grown-ups do it. That doesn't mean it doesn't make you sad. It just doesn't make you mad. And it also doesn't make you a vindictive person who thinks, oh, you know what? I hope they get what they're looking for or whatever, So here's where I've seen that type of behavior. And also, of course, there's definitely upset when you can admit it to yourself, right? Rejection. But if you have healthy self-worth, you know that you're upset because you're sad. But you don't take it personally. You don't take it to the extent of talking and saying that you're a piece of shit. Life partners, they make it because they choose each other. They're ideal because they choose and have authentic communication. They're loving who they are first and then also others. So whenever I see any drama, I just know I got a person who doesn't know how to be their true self because I got a teenager in the room. The 16-year-old, the fight response, and I got a person who doesn't know how to allow themselves to deal with unknowns, unexpecteds, and unwanteds with a functional adult attitude, with an inner child adult attitude too. But that's where everybody has different variables. Mindfulness, meditation, mindset, and practices. If you bring them forth with the desire of the outcome of using your restorative embodiment, you will have that outcome. If you don't want to be able to be non-reactive like that fancy lady in suit and you think it's holding you back, you don't want really to be a Zen master. You just want to put the practices into place and then call yourself a Zen master. But then every time some shit hits the fan, you're continuing with a narrative in your head and ruminating versus taking the opportunity to notice that you have the opportunity to be non-reactive. And so you are creating resiliency. You are tuning and you're regulating and you're self-soothing in a healthy way for you and your body, and you are processing that emotion. You don't have to call it forgiveness if you don't want to. You don't even have to use the word if you don't agree with it. The thing, though, about forgiveness is that when you understand what it is the capacity to dissolve a feeling where you feel there's been an imbalance and you would want that balance back. And so it's actually one of the, I'm going to use ultimate liberation, but it's not even just that. Pure consciousness and being able to, as a mystic, for me, this is easy. But as a person, you can use dark matter, dark energy, that you can use Dr. Daniel Siegel's words of how integration of the brain and everything else that comes with being a securely attached person, he doesn't use the words restorative embodiment, equals kindness and compassion. And what you are giving, I had notes, hold on, is, because these are very beautiful words, but what you are giving someone is the possibility not only to feel something different, because their nervous system will not have ever felt to have been welcomed while they're being a shitty, quote unquote, asshole, if you will, because that's exactly what they didn't learn. They didn't learn how to be regulating in their nervous system. If they didn't have a primary caregiver, one at least that taught it to them, but if people weren't safe. Integration made visible is kindness and compassion. This road to integration can be incredibly energizing because what you're doing and helping is someone heal, and it is really bringing out into the world the love and connection that is the birthright for all of us. Life as we move together to create more integration in our world. So, people who get treated with compassion and kindness because you're in a ventral vagal state will be able to sense it. Doesn't mean they're going to do anything with it, because their behavior, if they allow themselves to justify it, like the man, I'm not decent enough to be saluted, they're going to keep being that. So they're going to keep being Cusco, and that's definitely not a life partner. But for that note, we're going to pause here. And like I was saying, anybody who is a life partner material in the book of those of us who are securely attached are people who know how to use a good gut, at least what we're trying to achieve, or what I know I'm trying to look forward to achieve with those who do practices and then come and understand what empowerment really is, versus the pretenders. So pretenders are going to be in a controlled nervous system, which is in a sympathetic, which I'm going to notice because they're going to look very threatening and they're not going to be soft. So that means they already feel like they're physically threatened when there's no physical threat whatsoever, but we are still waiting to observe. And so it's not a perfect science, but again, when people go and exaggerate based on movies they watch, I have a friend of mine, I remember when I was trying to teach him about dropping his shoulders, like, no, but this person has some trauma or some stuff going on that he doesn't even admit and acknowledge. I don't know if it was being teased at home, I don't know, but his body immediately was like, that's not safe. But he would keep on talking about imagination, like, I always need to keep my back not to the door so I can make sure that like teenagers that I meet sometimes talking about shit like this is like, okay, no, you don't want to do that. You don't have to. You're not in a movie. This is not the way you want to be. Hypervigilant is not good for your body, nor is thinking this bullshit stuff in your head all the time. If you're doing it as a cop, there's a different story. Cop is gonna be actively having to be in certain modes. In fact, when I have one of my courses, a cop that went to a therapist is because his wife said, you have to go, we can't handle you anymore, you keep on just acting like the control part and everything that made him great as a cop, not a great husband, not a great friend, not a great anything. Too much. And so she explained, you're not going to lose what is yours, you're just going to soften those neural pathways and learn to get new ones. And that's neuroplasticity, which is why it doesn't change you. It's actually your body and brain that allow you to function a certain way. And this is what makes it so sad when people don't understand why mindfulness practices help and why yoga helps, and they create stories from ancient textbook people who don't also look into it in a way of noting, saying, it's your biology, you idiots. Your brain, the scientists explain it to you, so you're the one who's ignorant on the science material, not the other way around. You're the one who's not understanding that creating a new neural pathway is something that can help you. You're not updating yourself because you don't like, what, science? Oh, okay, whatever, so anyways, being ourselves, it's finally something that we can all understand much more completely, and why life partners are amazing when we have healthy self-worth ones, and why the ones who get to go to therapy together and get healthy self-worth is amazing, and why love is amazing, and that you don't have to do the suffering bit that some people have, because there is no need. You don't have to ruminate. You can I love to love, and my baby, he loves to laugh, and he loves to learn, he loves to love, and he loves to expand, and he loves to live, and he loves to not judge people and cast stones. So loving to be open-hearted and to enjoy people as we move forward. We get to be safe haven, secure bases for each other, and to support the ones who are healing from trauma so that they can have experiences with people who won't do characterological distinctions or judgments or 360s on them all of a sudden, because they don't understand that nobody controls their first 3 years of life. And if somebody has trauma, they need to work their way in time. And even in time, still the first 3 years, it's implicit memory. So you are going to want to understand it, humanly speaking, not with stories. Because it's humanly speaking that you understand your ego is not an enemy. It doesn't get dissolved. Your brain, or however words you want to use, that's a part. You don't dissolve the thoughts. You don't dissolve the sensations. They come up in time. You learn how to calibrate. You learn how to work with them. You learn how to disengage from maladaptive patterns and the unhealthy self-soothing things. And you learn how to not suppress it. And you learn how to not pretend they're not there. And you learn how to not do the things that you are called to do because you want to get better. Because you are sharing, by the way, life with someone. So that's why those people who do and are ready for the next steps, the ones of you I channeled for on the new moon, trauma is relational. Healing, it's when you also do this. And healing at its core is, in addition to a good therapist, getting your feet completely wet. And this is scary to anybody who didn't have a secure attachment beginning to their life. And they want to make sure they get a healthy self-worth other who understands what they are going through and who doesn't turn around and yell at them and do this casting of a stone, because they don't need that. They need the person who can be in their ventral vagal state. Okay. Wait for the right moment if it's not in the moment, when it's hot, as Dr. Daniel Fox explains, and then address it. So, when we were doing that thing that day, okay, so here, remember how you turned? Okay, so I want to talk about it, because that's when I talk about your maladaptive patterns, your tone, this came out. And so did you notice anything? This is why it's actually a very beautiful and important conversation, but with people who are healing, not the ones who go on screen, I'm an anxious, I'm an avoidant, I'm going to say. The ones who are doing it, that you can tell the ones who are not doing anything. The ones who are healing, it's like Kylie. She doesn't do things in ways that are, let's stay this way. She's working her way to heal, not to stay with any of the stuff that creates the part that you don't want. So whenever I see the people who are just pretending, I just think they don't really want out. They like their identity. This is who I am. Treat me this way. So there's groups for everybody. But what I was trying to say is, a person who is healing will say and talk, and you will talk, and it will be okay. So what's our plan? Dr. Daniel Fox, again, he works with personality disorders. That's why I was using him. So, okay, you had a plan. This didn't work. Did we notice if there was this? You would go and evaluate what happened and what took place so that we can explore it together as a couple. And then that's it. You explore it. And if it happens again, you explore it again. And obviously with the therapist. And then you keep working with the mindset and the mindfulness and the mindset. It doesn't stop. That's why it's honorable for the men, women, and those who are healing, and which is why here, again, at IHP, we're not here to be assholes. We're here to make fun of the assholes because they think they're actually badasses, and they're not. They're just from ancient history, which, by the way, what's the word? How do I say it? They're the fools. The 5D frequency has been here for a while. What they don't understand, but they don't believe in mystic stuff anyways. Plus, it's not provable. But I know what I'm talking about, meaning the frequency and all this, and what I understood as I was walking myself through moments where I'm like, okay, the 4D, they're off, because they just keep talking about twin flames, 144,000, this number, that number, new Earth. They're showing me 3 planets. There's not 3 planets. There's only one. I remember I went out with a girlfriend of mine, and she thought that we would not be seen. And I was like, look, we're going to be seen. We're not going to be invisible. No. They can't see us because we're 5D. Okay. I mean, I don't mind doing anything because, we were meaning, we weren't by ourselves. Let's just put it this way. So I'm like, it'll be fine. At most, they'll look at us awkward. Hopefully, we won't get, anybody come near us. Somebody did come near us, but they didn't. They didn't shoo us away. They didn't yell at us. They didn't. They just asked, "What are you doing?" We're reading coffee cups and doing tarot cards. ah, okay. We don't have to, So, anyways, but oh my God, that was hilarious. So thank goodness for now. I mean, this is where I feel bad when I know of people who get violent with them. We don't want any more of that, but we need more of us to not get violent altogether, which is instead what we don't see. So it's when different groups come together, the ones who can allow themselves to stand down because you don't correct biological rudeness, because you leave it alone. It's a human being who isn't aware of better manners. They don't want him. They don't want them. I saw a guy, this was in an office, as he's shouting on the top of his lungs, and he's just going and going, I always have to do this. I always have to yell. And it's not the first time he's done this. And I'm like, you didn't have to yell. I mean, gosh. So you're going to notice when your chord that's out of tune, but those who are in a crowd will stand down and leave it alone, because that's the way it happens. It gets awkward, but you leave it alone. And it's better to leave it alone than to create a scene. Physical safety is priority number one, not creating any type of unnecessary interaction with words that don't make a difference. So that's where people who have each other's back, like I've been in moments where through my silence and my posture and my capacity to maintain that which was my narrative, which is I am cool with my relationship with this person. I appreciate them. I appreciate who they are. I don't find anything at all in any way, shape, or form. That's because they were consistently in a series of days trying to make this human being look like a piece of shit to me. They were trying to put the person's in the mud, when somebody's like just talking down to you, and I was in silence because that's not the experience I have, and that's not the relationship I have, in fact, with the person. And so I didn't say anything. At a certain point, one of them's like, but we love them. Of course you love them. We're just, I know, I didn't say anything. But the reality is, no, they didn't show love. They showed ignorance, and they showed ganging up on one person, and they showed something that is not the only time I've seen it. So I did what I did, and I'm happy that I did. And that's because that's a good thing. And here's where universe works. It's magic always. And so I know of people who get treated in ways because of their past. And then when people treat you in ways because they decide that, their past is what rules, it doesn't matter to a person who has an ego that knows that you didn't taint my picture. You have a picture that's tainted and painted, and you didn't realize what you brought into the room and what you threw at me as if it's a tomato, right? Boo! And you think that you're building a genuine relationship and a lot more, and so it's always fascinating when you are able to understand what people don't notice about their own self. Now, they could, but they won't, like my facade friend. Remember? So my facade friend is a perfect example of somebody who loves me to death, but he didn't take full-blown ownership and awareness of what he brought into the room, not from the previous, before we became friends again, and not when I found out a bunch of things about how he doesn't believe in anything, and he's having me talk about my mystic life, and he doesn't believe in it, which is, again, I don't have to talk about something that you don't believe in. And here's why. So life partners, you can't be with a person who will discredit, diminish, ridicule anything if you're a mystic, because that's not how you experience life. You don't need them to partake in anything either, but the fact that you would ridicule me means that you intellectually don't have respect. Also, it's just something that's part of who we are. So again, when somebody doesn't understand an experience, everybody can be okay with it. The capacity for you to not understand that you're not understanding it doesn't mean that it's not true. That's where I have your ego in town, and you, ignorant person who thinks your ego knows all the truths, which you don't, because you don't experience it, and also 97% of what is out there is even unavailable to scientists. So a true scientist would be able to tell you, we don't know everything. And so a person who is a healthy self-worth human being will not be in their ego in a way of ridiculing anyone or anything, because they have healthy self-worth and they're empowered intellectually, number one. They're also empowered emotionally to stand down and to be open-hearted, number two, because their emotional experiences aren't what's going to taint the picture. That's because they own their 3-year-old, their 1-year-old, their all their child parts, meaning their heart and their body, and they're not bringing into the room a nervous system that's dysregulated based on something that they lack self-awareness, accountability, and regulation on. But that's why, again, those first 3 years of life is a very sensitive territory. So if we have someone who has a big trauma stuff going on, they have to be working with the therapist and or be aware of all of what they are and their triggers, because this is the part of where it gets in depth, not in a bad way. Like I said, Kylie, she's with her boyfriend. He's a sociopath. She's a narcissist. Her borderline is in remission. It's healing, or it's healed. Narcissism is healing. They both go to therapy and they work together and they work through, for example, the split thing. The only reason she probably knew about it is because she was already in therapy. And so, and then luckily he knew about it too. So he didn't throw away the stuff she threw out. He didn't take it 100% serious. I don't know the whole story. She shared a little bit about it. But my point is they got back together. And it was when he told her that she is the one for him, because she inside is completely terrified or feels about unworthy. I don't know how she would describe it. I'm not her, but the part about splitting and black and white is something that's discussed from the experts. So somebody who has what Kylie has is something that happens, that a person will say, no, I'm not. And they actively, I'm not laughing because it's funny, actively a person, like Peter Levine says, can twist things to say, you love me, you're evil. You can't love me because I'm evil. So if you love me that much, then you're evil. Something's wrong with you. And Dr. Daniel Fox shares too. A person who's kind will be considered suspicious, and then they will be tested, and then they'll continue to be tested, and then they'll continue to be tested because there's no way that you exist. And then they, so lack of self-awareness. That's why Dr. Daniel Fox, he says, no borderlines ever told me, yeah, I want to keep hurting the feelings of the people I love. And no narcissist has told them that either. So people who are educated, we get to walk with people, and then we get to be with people, and we get to have conversations, and we get to also understand people who are still afraid because they don't get the real information from no fucking shitty series. There's still demonic possession docu-series, and I have not seen one with Patrick McNamara's neuroscience findings. And even if there are, it's like with the left-right brain thing. There's still myths about it. There's still pop psychology. So we have, it's not disinformation alone. And here's why, people will be against different types of content. I'm in favor of empowering people through information, not getting rid of it and making blanket statements of what should be or shouldn't be online. Because again, that's the whole part of where this is why we all differ. So some people, they want to be able to call the shots. The thing is, no one needs to call the shots because it can be regulated and organized by those bodies and entities and people and all together as a collective, as we've always done, which is exactly why nothing is really different than before, except for we have added a digital platform and more, and we have added a lot more, technology that has given us a lot of information. The ones who are afraid that our brains cannot capacitate it, they don't understand how integration of the brain works and how the younger generation is already aware because of good mental therapists. Again, so the people that don't understand it is because they don't understand how life always moves forward. So again, when they're questioning life and they're questioning what has come, they're questioning everything because it's different than what they're used to. And then they're not looking at it from a holistic perspective, noticing, okay, what do we got? So they're also afraid because obviously they all think of the things that are going wrong because our brain will hone in on that which is negative because it wants to protect us. But the minute you've honed in on where the negative is, you hone in on, okay, here's the solution. And there you go. And we have a solution. We got a bunch of people on that other end telling people not to go to therapy. That doesn't help the brain, which wants to integrate because that's what it's already doing. But we don't have to do anything about it, meaning it's already being worked through. And that's the beauty of being here and letting you all know that it's all going to be fine. And I had already known about the 5D collective knowing this, and then about 4D and 3D sticking with 4D, 3D. But anyways, that's a long story short. Side note, side note, side note. So thanks again for stopping by. We'll be back with more. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed. And if you know other people who want to do self-empowerment, mindfulness, and mindset. When the tears are out, we'll have practices. And then in the meantime, they get to hear stories and have fun. And laugh and make fun of the ones who don't want to get integrated and all that good stuff. No, it's not good, but it is what it is. So again, thank you for stopping by.